my gorgeous stargazers. How are we all today? I hope you're all well and you had a cracking week. We've switched over to video format today, which I think is probably going to be best in the long run because it means I get to show you the chart so I can kind of point out the bits that I'm talking about. But if you still prefer to read in the kind of old way, don't worry. There's still the newsletter. You can sign up for that on the website if that's how you prefer this information. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at the week in astrology. Before we go into the more immediate aspects, let's take a look at what's been affecting us in a slightly more long-term approach. In particular, good old Neptune square in the nodes. He's now separating. And what we mean by that is he's met them exact head-on. I think it was around about the 18-19 degree. And he's now separating away. So the effects that we were feeling from him will now slowly start to fade away. And I say slowly because he's a real slow mover. He's one of our sort of transpersonal collective energies, if you will. So how's he been affecting us so far? Well, as we talked about last week and the week before, he's a bit annoying when he squares the nodes. Anything squaring the nodes is something we kind of have to deal with and reconcile and can perhaps be affecting us in a way that we perceive as negative, but equally is calling for us to acknowledge it and grow. And when Neptune is squaring the nodes, I guess the best way to describe him is he's just a massive pain in the arse, really. Bless his soul. It's a very distracting aspect. Neptune, kind of negatively polarized, if you will, can be very sort of misty, very hazy. He can be delusional and really distracting. And I think that's what we suffered with. I think this past year, to be honest with you, in terms of a distraction from where we are meant to go as a collective. And so now he's kind of slowly coming out of that, this illusion, this delusionary energy will slowly kind of fade away. And we'll have a kind of brighter, more progressive, more, I think our North Node will be more known to us. We won't be as distracted, we won't be as confused as we were previously, and that's going to be really helpful. So you should kind of start to see that filtering through. You should start to feel a bit more clear, a bit more concise in who you are as a person and where you stand in the world. And indeed, I think a Mercury retrograde is speaking to that as well. I know lots of people enjoy telling you how horrendous Mercury retrograde is, and lots of people enjoy buying into the bullshit of that premise. But this is a cracking aspect for us. If we take a look at where Mercury is, well, he's in Aquarius. He's in the sign of the higher mind, that being ruled by Uranus, will show us that our lower logical mind is turned inwards to enable us to take on board everything the higher mind is trying to tell us. So you can really expect to feel these aha moments, just sort of sudden revelations. And whereas when we can receive energy from Neptune, it can be quite abstract, it can be quite story-like, and we kind of have to decode it. Whereas Uranus is very much bolt out of the blue, immediately understood, immediately. Oh, that's what I have to do. So you can expect to be feeling this. You can expect to be given these aha moments. And so what I would do, if I were you, is just make sure you've got something handy, be it your journal, your phone, your whatever. Just you will most likely receive these instant downloads that have been so lacking for a lot of us for quite a while. So enjoy this retrograde. He doesn't turn direct until the 20th, and then he will stay in his post-shadow period until the 27th. So you've still got plenty of time to be making the most of this energy. Now, to quote a cliche, because we do have him in Aquarius, and because he is retrograde, Mercury wants to focus on you. He wants to focus on your internal dynamics, and he wants to focus upon the higher mind. He's not so bothered about other people. You know, he's not so communicative with others. So you can potentially expect your communication, your technology to go kaput on you, or at least act in a rather strange and bizarre fashion. Don't worry about that. You're just being directed to go in the opposite way. So be chill and really make the most of this, because it's a good one. I know I'm certainly enjoying it. We've also got these fixed energy dynamics going on. In particular, we've got Saturn squaring Uranus. And of course, so many of the planets are having a party in that particular sign right now. And that's really, really important to acknowledge, given the fact we've got Uranus and Mars squaring this in Taurus. So what do we make of that? Well, it's kind of pressuring us to not necessarily only make decisions, but to decide on how we are going to be, to decide upon how we are going to survive in this world. The sign of Taurus, of course, is how we all self-relate. We stop, we take in our experience, we assimilate it, and in Taurus we kind of meet our own personal values, what we think of the world, what matters to us, this whole kind of self-survival, self-preservation energy. Taurus isn't so fussed about other people. Taurus isn't so fussed about group activity. Taurus wants to do what Taurus needs to do to kind of keep on going and keep on its path. So it's interesting, really, that we've got Mars there, which is our personal dynamic of being out in the world, our personal dynamic of the masculine energy that's in all of us. When we have that in Taurus, that's kind of where our energy is focused. It's kind of where we want to be moving. And as well as that, we've got Uranus in Taurus too. And of course, Uranus is the planetary ruler of Aquarius. So if we take that as a given, we've got this whole intermeshing of the Taurus survival archetype in with the Aquarium kind of freedom-loving, adventurous, left field, let's create a new, rebellious energy. And so we are going to be searching for our own personal place within this kind of collective experience. And it's going to be tough. I won't lie. It's interesting to see how we've got both Venus and Uranus in mutual reception as well, because we have Venus in Aquarius and we have Uranus in Taurus. So you can't, there's no way, as isolated as many of us have been, and I think we certainly felt that under the Mars retrograde, as isolated and solitary as we have felt, as much as we've had this need to survive, this need to cultivate our own personal experience, you can't escape the group collective. That there's just no way. They are so intertwined right now, and you're going to see that play out, I think, over the next year and beyond. I mean, we even see Pluto itself move into Aquarius in 2024, so get used to this. And it's not nice quite often when you want to be in charge of your own autonomous destiny, when you personally kind of identify as being quite unclubbable or an island of one, as many people do. Conversely, many people don't, and they love the shared group experience and they want more of that. So whichever side you stand on, we are really being called right now to be within this kind of group, left field, humanitarian experience. And let's not forget that Aquarius is actually a really kind of forward-thinking, revolutionary, modern sign. It's dragging us all, whether we like it or not, into new pastures, new pastures for Taurus. So yeah, you will be feeling that. Get used to it. It's not going anywhere. And in particular, if we take a look at Saturn and Uranus square by exactly the same degree, it's really, really interesting dynamics. in terms of the authority of Saturn now placed in the Aquarian age, being at odds with Uranus in Taurus, and we can see that playing out already. We all know who the largest landowner is in America, and most of us are aware of what's happening with the agricultural movement in India. And I think this is a larger collective expression of the stressful dynamics of these placements, and we're all kind of called to question where we want to go with this. If there's one thing we can say about the Aquarian age and the advent of all this mass technology, which has seen actually a massive leap in 1 year alone, we are also painfully aware of what's happening across the world, what's happening to people we don't even know. That it can be really difficult to call yourself back to center, to call yourself back to being embodied. And I think in a way that's exactly what Mars in Taurus is asking of us at the moment. You know, yes, of course, have this awareness of what's happening in the world. Have this awareness of what the dynamics are between yourself and others and authoritarian control. But equally stay in your body, because that's the only way you're going to make any difference to this world. So all that given, and it is quite a lot, let's move on to this week specifically, and we'll be starting our look at the 8th of February, when we will see Mercury Retrograde conjunct the Sun. And I think this will be a beautiful expression. We talked a little while ago about how Mercury Retrograde is really in tune with those higher revelations. And when Mercury is conjunct the Sun, it does nothing but illuminate that. So this is a great day for you guys to really begin to see, I guess, the wood from the trees, to really see your situation, how you view the world, illuminated with some real strong higher truths. How you react to that, of course, is down to you in your individual inherent belief systems and structures, but you can expect to be able to see things for what they are, certainly on a higher level, not a subjective personal one, but a more objective level. So this is a great day for really getting to grips with your own views and values and how they stand stacked up against how you see the world and how you want to see the world. Moving on to the 10th, that beautiful aspect, kind of Mercury takes it and runs with it. So he's trying the North Node, and that's cracking. You know, that's a really, really good place for him to be. He's able to feed in to the node, and of course he is the planetary ruler of Gemini. So he's able to talk to the North Node, to talk to the collective in a way that embodies these higher truths, these higher ideals. Only thing is, he's also square to Mars. So Mars isn't necessarily so down with this, and we kind of talked about this a minute ago, didn't we? Mars takes a little bit more convincing. Mars is a bit stressed out by all of this higher universal truth because it's busy doing its thing. Thank you very much. So we might be forced into a decision. We might need to really work on ourselves to align ourselves with where we need to go, and perhaps where we don't need to go at the same time. Plenty of you, I think, will be absolutely fine with this. You'll enjoy it. For others, it can really induce feelings of insecurity, of fear of not being able to thrive. People may perhaps kind of be brought into your path, maybe to test you on how grounded you are, on how confident you are, I guess, in terms of your embodiment, in terms of your purpose on this earth, and in terms of your desire to be here, living your purpose and living your truths. So this is going to be a really interesting time, and the dynamics, again, that they're just set up to kind of help you grow into that, help you become stronger and sturdier, more self-belief, and go in the right direction. Of course, leads us into our nice new moon on the 11th of February at 23 degrees Aquarius. So of course, our new moon is our cycle of a new start, and this in the realm of all things 11th house. Auspiciously, perhaps, we have Jupiter and we have Venus in conjunction at exactly the same time. So if we look at this in a typical romantic or sexual expression, we can see expansion and attraction brought together quite nicely in terms of magnifying our attraction and magnifying our romantic potentials. However, that's not quite as cut and dry as perhaps some people would like it to be. On the other hand, we can become attracted to what appeals to us. With Jupiter being the higher mind, we can find ourselves off in search of exploration of all sorts of things to do with the natural world, the world around us, not necessarily of a typically romantic nature at all. And equally, with Venus being the lady of vibrational attraction, we could just bring more and more to ourselves of what our soul is resonating at. So the new moon's quite an interesting time, really, if we think about that. Think about what comes into our field of vision during this time. That will show us where we're at kind of vibrationally, what's matching us. And if you don't like that, well, it's a new moon, so crack on and start with something else that you do like. What I would add here, before we get all carried away in terms of exciting love matches and starting the new, etc., etc., is we have Venus, who likes to form relationships, matching Jupiter, who likes to be pretty much unfettered and unbounded and roam the world. Thank you very, very much. So is there the potential to be pining away after somebody who's busy in pursuits of their own ideals, in pursuits of their own freedom? Well, I think if this is you, I would take a tip from the house both Jupiter and Venus find themselves in, which, of course, is Aquarius. We could play a drinking shots game, couldn't we? Every time I say Aquarius or Uranus, take a shot. You'd all be keeled over on the floor by now, I'm sure. But anyway, let's allow our Venus to herself be attracted to those higher ideals, to higher philosophy, to more group activity. Our good old humanitarian efforts. That's where her personal vibration is set at the moment. So perhaps we should let that ethos lead us into the initiation of St. Valentine's Day. When I picture it, I kind of see groups of people out together having fun and couples intermingled with that, as opposed to a candlelit dinner for two. But, you know, you'll do you, I'm sure. If we take a look, we also have a really interesting dynamic going on between Saturn and Chiron, who are both sat at 6 degrees. Saturn in Aquarius, take a shot, and Chiron in Aries. And this is a very, very interesting dynamic. And with these two placed as they are, it's a real sign, actually, that we can take ownership of ourselves and our core wounds. And we can initiate through Aries the acknowledgement of where we've suffered, perhaps in and because of societal conditions, and deal with that in a really grown-up way. The whole journey from the Cancer to Capricorn axis is one of integrating the emotional body to enable us to nurture others and bring our full self into society and to help structure it where it caters for all of us. So if we look at the positively aspect, Saturnine aspect, it's very much mastered that and is able to then go on and structure society in a really good, well-meaning manner. So being sextile to Chiron, we are all able, or we are all afforded the opportunity, I should say, to get to grips with those wounds, to get to grips with that cellular core wounding and begin to heal. And of course, again, all under the new moon, we can initiate that healing response as much as we can initiate the desire for attraction and romance if we so want to. So some really, really powerful dynamics there. I feel good about this new moon. I think we can use it well. We can use it to our advantage if we desire to. Moving on to the 13th, we have Venus in play again. Actually, all this month, I would say it's probably mostly Venus and Mercury affecting the sway of everybody, our two personal planets of vibrational attraction and logic. So we have a meeting of their minds, so to speak. And I think this will be a good one if we remember the current condition of the transit Mercury energy and the current condition of transit Venus energy. They're both really nicely matched. And I see this, I mentioned a minute ago, didn't I, how I could see groups of couples and singles intermingled, actually, enjoying the Valentine's ethos. This speaks volumes to me about attracting your tribe, about communicating with the people who are of a like mind as yourself. I guess the sort of safety in numbers if we bring the Taurus aspect back into play. But yeah, for sure, this really speaks to me about hanging out with the people who support you, who progress you, and who equally make you feel safe. And if you've not found those people yet, it's perfectly fine to be an island of one most of the time, but this whole week's energy is kind of geared up for you to make waves into meeting these people. And let's be honest, under the Aquarian age, under the technological advantages we now have, it's easier now more than ever to speak to people across the world if we wish to. So yeah, make the most of that. If you're called, go find your people. You are bound to find them this week for sure. And ending our video on the 14th, we see a perfect culmination of everything we've just talked about, really, don't we? We see Mercury retrograde now in conjunction with Jupiter. So let's backtrack a little bit. We have attracted our tribe, and we are now expanding our tribe. This is a really, really cool 48-hour period, and I really, really would recommend making the most of it. I mean, you do you, but this is a really, really good time to get to grips with, communicate with, and feel supported by the people who are on your wavelength. So yeah, make the most of this one, kids. I think this is a good week. If we look back at what we've come through last year, and indeed January astrology was pretty rank. I'm not going to lie. I don't think many of us enjoyed it, but I really sort of see. Yeah, I see this energy now as way more positive, way more freed up than it has been in the past. So enjoy it. Get out there in whatever way, shape, or form you can. And just live your life. Be cool, be you, and I'll see you again next week.